And so we settle in. You can feel your body beginning to grow heavy in the most pleasant way. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understand, only the gentle rhythm of a story. A story about a single, undying flame, and the women who were tasked with keeping it alive. A responsibility that was both a supreme honor and a gilded, terrifying cage. Imagine you are there. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint, dry scent of dust, noble, and distant wood smoke. The moon is a silver coin, casting long, stark shadows across the paving stones of the great Roman Forum. By day, this place is a chaotic symphony of shouting merchants, litigating senators, and marching soldiers. But now, in the deep of night, it is profoundly silent. The grand basilicas and towering columns are just sleeping giants, their stone surfaces glowing softly under the moonlight. Your footsteps, if you were to take them, would be the only sound, echoing in the vast, empty space. Your eyes are drawn, not to the massive, imposing structures, but to a small, circular building tucked away near the base of the Palatine Hill. It's humble, almost shy, compared to its colossal neighbors. This is the Temple of Vesta, goddess of the hearth, the home, and the family, and unlike every other temple in this sprawling city, it has no grand statue of the deity inside, because Vesta's presence isn't in a statue. It's in the light you can see flickering through its open doorway. That tiny, dancing light is the heart of Rome. It is the sacred flame. This is not some decorative fire. It is the literal, spiritual hearth of the entire Roman state. As long as this flame burns, Rome is safe. Its armies will be victorious. Its harvests will be plentiful. And the favor of the gods, the crucial pax derum, will hold. If this flame were to go out, it would be a terrifying omen, a sign that the gods have abandoned Rome, heralding unimaginable disaster. The pressure is immense. It's a task that might sound simple to anyone who's ever been camping, but to the people of Rome, this small fire was the cosmic equivalent of holding the entire world in your hands and being told not to drop it. And because this flame is so pure, so essential, it cannot be contaminated, should it ever be extinguished, by accident or neglect. It cannot be lit from a common torch or a neighbor's cooking fire. That would be a grave profanity. They knew, pure flame must be created from scratch. You imagine the frantic, sacred work, the frantic rubbing of two pieces of wood from a specific, fortunate tree, until a spark catches in the dry tinder. Or on a sunny day, the use of a special bronze mirror, a burning minus glass, to focus the sun's rays into a single, scorching point of pure, divine heat. The fire must be born of nature, untouched by human artifice. But the temple holds more than just the fire. Hidden away in its most secret chamber, the Panis Vestae, are other sacred objects. These are the Pitnora Imperii, the pledges of Roman rule. These are objects so powerful, so vital to the empire's destiny, that their existence is a guarded secret. What are they exactly? Well, that's a question historians are still happily arguing about today. The most famous is said to be the Palladium, a wooden statue of Pallas Athena, supposedly rescued by Aeneas from the burning city of Troy itself. To possess it was to possess the divine right to rule. What else was in there? No one truly knows. Perhaps a shard of a meteorite, or the ashes of a hero. The mystery was the point. These items were the city's ultimate insurance policy, and they were hidden here, in this small, round temple, protected by the fire. You stand there in the cool Roman night, gazing at the wall. Steady flicker from the temple doorway. You feel the immense, silent weight of it all. The fate of 1,000,000 people. The destiny of an empire that stretches from the misty shores of Britain to the hot suns of Syria. All tethered to this one single flame. The burden is almost too great to comprehend. So who carries this burden? Who are the guardians of this sacred, fragile light? As you stand there, bathed in the soft, ancient moonlight. A flicker of movement from the temple doorway catches your eye. Two figures emerge, gliding so silently they seem to be part of the night itself. They are women, dressed in robes of the purest white. Their heads are covered with a traditional headdress, an infulla, which consists of long, woolen ribbons that fall over their shoulders. These are the Vestals, Rome's most sacred, and perhaps most mysterious women. You watch them as they perform a quiet, ritualistic check of the temple's surroundings. Their movements are slow, deliberate, and have the practiced grace of 1,000 repetitions. They don't speak. They don't need to. They are a sisterhood bound by a duty that transcends words. In a city where women's lives were largely defined by their fathers and husbands, these women are different. They answer to no man. They are consecrated to the goddess Vesta, and their loyalty is to her and to the state alone. There are only 6 of them at any given time. 6 women, chosen in childhood, to serve for a period of 30 years. 30 years. An entire lifetime for many in the ancient world. They are the living embodiment of purity and devotion. Their official title is Sacerdotes Vestals, priestess of Vesta, but to the people of Rome, they are something more. They are revered figures, treated with a deference that borders on awe. When they walk through the streets in their white robes, a special attendant, a LIC tour, walks ahead of them, clearing a path. Senators, consuls, even the emperor himself will bow their heads and make way. They are untouchable, inviolable. Their central duty, the one that defines their existence, is tending that eternal flame you see burning so steadily. But their role extends far beyond that. They are the guardians of sacred rules and treaties, the keepers of state secrets. The most powerful men in Rome entrust their last testaments to the Vestals, knowing that no one would dare tamper with the document under their protection. They also perform complex rites tied to the agricultural calendar, ensuring the fertility of the land. They bake a special, salted flour cake called molas also for use in state sacrifices, a recipe known only to them. They are woven into the very fabric of Roman religious and civic life. Yet, as you look at them, you notice something else. They are surrounded by an aura of profound separation. They are in the world, but not of it. Their lives are lived within a very specific and very rigid set of rules. The most important, the one upon which their entire existence rests, is their vow of chastity. For the 30 years of their service, they must remain absolute virgins. This isn't just a moral guideline, it is a state requirement, a matter of national security. Their purity is believed to be directly linked to the purity and safety of Rome itself. Her body is a metaphor for the city walls. If she is pure, the city is secure. If her body is compromised, then the integrity of the state is compromised. 2. A crack in her virtue is a crack in the foundations of Rome. Historians have long debated the exact origins of this intense focus on virginity, but many believe it harks back to an ancient belief that a virgin's life force is whole and undiluted, making her a uniquely powerful conduit for divine energy. Her purity fuels the fire, which in turn protects the city. It's a delicate, cosmic balance, and the punishment for breaking this vow is unique, and uniquely terrifying. A Roman citizen who strikes a Vestal can be put to death. That person is sacred. Therefore, no one can shed their blood, so the Romans, in their particular genius for legalistic cruelty, devised a workaround. She would be buried alive, walled up in an underground chamber with a small crust of bread, a flask of water, the lamp, and a single bed. She isn't executed. Technically, she is simply left in a tomb, with the tools for a day's survival, for the gods to judge. Her blood is not spilled by human hands. It's a chilling piece of legal and religious theater. As the 2 women complete their rounds on turn to glide back into the temple, the enormity of their position begins to dawn on you. They are living goddesses, but they are also prisoners of their own sacredness. They are revered above all other women, yet denied the life that almost every other woman would live: the life of a wife, a mother. They hold immense power and privilege. But it all rests on a single, fragile thread. A single mistake, a single transgression, could lead them to a death so horrible it was designed to be a fate worse than death itself. The white robes that signal their purity could, in an instant, become their funeral shroud. The temple door closes, and the night is silent once more. But the silence feels different now. It is heavier, charged with the knowledge of what these women represent, and the terrible price they might have to pay. The memory of the white minus-robed figures fades, and your perspective shifts. The moonlit firm dissolves, and you find yourself no longer an observer, but participant. You are a little girl, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, playing with a carved wooden doll in the sun-drenched courtyard of your family's home. The air is warm, filled with the familiar sounds of your household, the distant clatter of pots, the low murmur of your mother's voice. This is your world. It is safe, predictable, and yours. You are of a good family, one of the old patrician lines. Your father is a senator, a man of some importance. Your future is already mapped out. In a few years, you will be betrothed to the son of another powerful family, a boy you may have met once or twice at a public festival. You will marry, manage a large household, and bear children, hopefully sons, to carry on your husband's name. This is the path of every Roman girl of your class. It is the only path you have ever known. Suddenly, a different sound cuts through the domestic harmony. The sharp, official rap of a staff on your front door. A hush falls over the courtyard. Your mother appears, her brow furrowed with a mixture of curiosity and anxiety. A servant hurries to open the door, and a man steps into the light. He is tall and imposing, dressed in the heavy, formal robes of a high priest. His face is stern, etched with the gravity of his office. This is the Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome, the most powerful religious figure in the entire empire. His presence here, in your home, is utterly shocking. It's like a god stepping out of a myth and into your kitchen. Your father is summoned, his expression a mask of formal deference, hiding his own confusion. They speak in low, serious tones. You are too young to understand all the words, but you catch a few, on a Vestas or Gerdos. Then, the Pontifex Maximus turns, and his gaze falls upon you. His eyes are not unkind, but they are piercing, as if he is looking not just at you, but through you, into the very core of your being. He approaches slowly. Your mother puts a reassuring hand on your shoulder, but you can feel it trembling slightly. He kneels down, bringing his powerful face level with yours, and he speaks a single, ritual phrase, a formula that has been spoken for centuries. Amor, he says, his voice a low rumble. Ti capio. I take you, beloved one. It's a deceptively simple phrase, but it carries the weight of an earthquake. Tapio, I take. It's a legal term, the same word used for capturing spoils of war or seizing property. At this moment, you are legally and spiritually seized. You are no longer your father's daughter. Your legal ties to your family are severed as cleanly as if by a knife. You now belong to the goddess Vesta in the Roman state. You have been chosen. Why you? This is a question scholars still puzzle over. There were specific criteria. You had to be between 6 and 10 years old. You had to be freeborn, of patrician parents who were still living. And you had to be physically perfect, with no stutters, no limps, no blemishes. You were to be a perfect vessel for the goddess. But beyond that, how was the final choice made? 20 eligible girls from Rome's finest families were presented. Why did his eyes land on you? Was it a random lottery? Was there some subtle political calculation at play, a favor being granted to your father? Or did he see something in your face, an innocence, a seriousness that marked you as one of Vesta's own? No one can say for sure. You don't understand the full implications. Of course, not yet. You see the tears welling in your mother's eyes, a mixture of pride and profound sorrow. You see your father's face, tight with the immense honor that has been bestowed upon your house, but also with the pain of losing his child. You are not being sent away to school. You are not being married off. You are being given to the gods. You will leave this house today, and you will not return as a member of this family. The Pontifex Maximus gently takes your hand. His grip is firm, final. You look back at your sunlit courtyard, at the wooden doll lying forgotten on the stones. It's a snapshot of a life that, just a moment ago, was yours. No, it belongs to someone else. You are laid out of your home, away from everything you have ever known. You are walking into a new life, a life of unimaginable privilege and terrifying responsibility. You are on your way to become a Vestal. The transition was famously abrupt. One obscure but telling detail from the historical records is the immediate cutting of the new Vestal's hair. It was shorn off, a powerful symbol of your renunciation of your old identity. Your hair, a mark of youthful vanity and femininity, was then hung upon a sacred tree, an offering to signify your new, consecrated status. You are being unmaidened or maid. The little girl who played with dolls is gone. In her place, a novice priestess is being born, a living symbol whose life is no longer her own. You are now a martyr, the beloved one, and your 30-year service has just begun. You walk through the streets of Rome, your small hand still held firmly by the Pontifex Maximus. The world outside feels different now. The crowds part before you with a new kind of respect. Their murmurs a mix of awe and pity. You are no longer just a senator's daughter. You are a living treasure, a piece of state property. You feel a strange sense of detachment, as if you're watching yourself in a dream. Your journey ends at the edge of the Forum, before a grand and imposing building complex adjacent to the small, round temple you saw in the moonlight. This is the Atrium Vesta E, the house of the Vestals. This will be your home for the next 30 years. It is not a temple, but a palace. As you step through the gates, the noise of the city instantly recedes, replaced by a profound and echoing quiet. The scale of the place is breathtaking. You find yourself in a vast, colonnade courtyard, open to the sky. In the center is a long, rectangular garden with pools of clear water that reflect the blue heavens. Rose bushes and laurel trees are planted in neat, geometric patterns. The sound of trickling water from a series of small fountains is the only music. Surrounding this courtyard are 3 stories of statues, marble portraits of the senior Vestals who have served here over the centuries. Their stone eyes seem to follow you, a silent audience of predecessors judging their new recruit. You will walk past these faces every day. They are your new family tree. This is your gilded cage, and it is very, very gilded. The life of a Vestal is one of immense material comfort. While most Roman women lived under the strict legal authority of a male guardian, their father or husband, you are now legally autonomous. You can own property, write your own will, and engage in business contracts. This was an extraordinary level of freedom. The state provides you with a generous stipend, making you an independently wealthy woman from the moment you enter service. Your new chambers are luxurious. You have your own suite of rooms, elegantly appointed with fine furniture, mosaics on the floor, and perhaps even a small, private berth. The house of the Vestals was known to have one of the most sophisticated plumbing and heating systems in all of Rome, a testament to the importance and comfort afforded to its residents. You will be attended by servant. You will eat the finest food, wear the finest linens beneath your simple white robes. You are, for all intents and purposes, living the life of an aristocrat, but one detached from the usual obligations of family and politics. But the luxury has a purpose. It is meant to compensate for what you have given up, forever, as you are led through the quiet, sun-dappled corridors. You see the other Vestals. They're older women with faces of serene authority, and younger women, closer to your own age, who give you small, knowing smiles. This is your new sisterhood. They're the only people who will truly understand the strange reality of your life. The rules that govern this reality are absolute. Your vow of chastity is the cornerstone of your existence, the source of your power and your peril. But there are other, stranger prohibitions, one of the most peculiar, and one that historians debate the precise meaning of, is that you are forbidden from being touched by a man's uncovered body, a rule that extended even to physicians. This created a bizarre medical reality for the Vestals. How does a doctor diagnose an internal ailment without touch? They would have relied on descriptions, on observing from a distance, turning medicine into a strange act of remote interpretation. Another rule: if the sacred flame in the temple goes out on your watch, you will be taken to a dark, sealed room and beaten by the Pontifex Maximus. Your blood cannot be spilled, but a ceremonial scourging was deemed acceptable. The darkness was key. He would not see your consecrated body as he delivered the punishment. It was a ritual shaming, a physical reminder of your failure. You are also bound to the city. A Vestal could not, under normal circumstances, leave the sacred boundary of Rome. To Perma your life is tied to this place, to these few square miles of stone and spirit. Your cage, while beautiful, has very firm bars. And then there's the 30-year term. It's a structure of beautiful, almost cruel symmetry. The first 10 years are for learning. The next 10 years are for practicing your duties. The final 10 years are for teaching the next generation. It's a complete cycle of maiden, mother, and crone, but in a purely spiritual, non-biological sense. You will be a student, then a priestess, then a mentor. As night falls on your first day in the atrium, you lie in your new, comfortable bed. The sounds of your family home are gone, replaced by the gentle splash of fountains and the deep, humming silence of a sacred place. You feel a profound sense of loneliness, a child's ache for her mother. But mingled with it is a dawning awareness of your own importance. You are no longer just a little girl. You are a Vestal. You are a guardian of Rome. The luxury around you is not a gift. It is your payment. Signed today with the words "I take you," is just beginning to settle upon your small shoulders. The first morning light spills into your new room, softer and quieter than the light in your old home. There are no sounds of a family waking, no hurried footsteps, only the distant, melodic call of a senior priestess summoning the novices. Your first decade of service has begun. These are your years to learn, and there is an overwhelming amount to know. You and the other young girls who have recently entered the sisterhood are brought to a classroom of sorts within the atrium. Your teacher is one of the oldest Vestals, a woman in her final 10 years of service. Her name is Vestals Maxima, the most senior Vestal. She is the leader of your small community. Her face is a roadmap of discipline and devotion, her eyes holding a wisdom that seems as ancient as the city itself. She does not smile often, but when she does, it is a rare and precious thing. Your education begins with the most fundamental and terrifying of your duties, the flame. You are taught that the fire is not a thing, but a being. It is the goddess Vesta in her purest form. It must be fed, cleaned, and cared for with the same attention one would give a living creature. You learn which woods are forbidden and which are favored, the precise way to add the specially prepared logs so as not to smother the embers. You learn to read its moods, the way it sputters when the wood is damp, the way it dances when the air is dry. You are taught to sit with it for hours, your mind focused solely on its flickering sway, a form of deep, demanding meditation. But your education goes far beyond tending the fire. You must become a walking encyclopedia of sacred lore. Your days are filled with memorization. You learn the complex calendar of Roman religious festivals, a dizzying schedule of rites, prayers, and public ceremonies that dictates the rhythm of the year. You must know which gods are honored on which days, the specific formulas for the prayers addressed to them, and the correct ritual gestures to accompany those prayers. A single misspoken word, a gesture made with the left hand instead of the right, could invalidate an entire ceremony and anger the gods. The pressure to achieve perfection is immense. One of the most peculiar and detailed parts of your training involves the molar salsa. This salted flower sounds simple, but its creation is a ritual of incredible precision. You are taught to harvest the ears of spelt from the very first crop of the season. These ears of grain must be prepared by the three most senior Vestals. You, as a novice, watch and learn. They grind the grain between two stones, mixing it with coarse, hand-pounded salt and water from a sacred spring, carried in a special vessel that must never touch the ground. The resulting brittle cake is then used in nearly every official state sacrifice, sprinkled on the heads of the animals to consecrate them. You are learning to make the sacred seasoning of the empire. Historians still debate the full symbolic meaning of this simple cake, but it seems to represent a pure, foundational element of civilization: grain, salt, and water, all set up in perfect form. Your studies are not just religious, but also legal. You must understand the unique legal status you occupy. You are taught the details of property law, how to manage your own considerable wealth, and how to act as a legally binding witness for treaties and wills. You are being groomed to be not just a priestess, but a capable and autonomous public figure. And then there are the secrets. In the quiet of the inner sanctumes, the Vestalis Maxima begins to tell you of the Penus Vesta, the Holy of Holies within the temple that contains the pledges of Roman rule. You do not see them yet. You are not yet worthy. But you learn of their existence, their supposed origins, and the immense power they hold. You learn that your duty is not just to the flame, but to these unseen objects. The knowledge itself is a heavy burden, a secret you must carry to your grave. Life as a novice is a strange mix of scholarly discipline and childlike routine. You spend hours chanting prayers, but you also have time to walk in the garden courtyard, to talk with the other girls. You form friendships, bonds forged in this unique, isolated environment. You are sisters in a way no biological siblings could ever be. You share a fate, a purpose, and a danger that no one outside these walls can comprehend. There are moments of deep peace, a feeling of profound connection to the goddess and to the destiny of Rome, but there are also moments of intense longing for the simple, uncomplicated life you left behind. You watch from the high windows at the atrium as families walk through the forum, and you feel a pang of something you can't quite name. It is the ghost of a future you will never have. The 10 years stretch before you, a mountain of knowledge to be climbed. Every day is a lesson in precision, in memory, in devotion. You are being stripped of your childhood ignorance and clothed in the heavy robes of sacred responsibility. You are being forged, day by day, into a perfect instrument of the Roman state. And you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that any failure in your education could have consequences far more dire than a simple bad grade. As you transition from novice to practicing priestess, the abstract lessons of your first decade begin to manifest as real, tangible power. The world outside the atrium, which once seemed so distant, now interacts with you in new and startling ways. You begin to understand that your white robes are not just a symbol of purity, but a shield and a key, granting you privileges that are the envy of the Roman elite. One day, you are scheduled to attend a ceremony at a temple across the city. You travel not as a common citizen, but in a carped-on, a covered, to-minus-wheeled carriage, a luxury typically reserved for the most senior magistrates and empresses. As your carriage rolls through the crowded streets, your ally seat or walks ahead, his ceremonial bundle of rods, BFAS, held high. He doesn't shout for people to move. He doesn't need to. The sight of him, and the white minus-draped carriage that follows, is enough. The throngs of people part like water, merchants hawking their wares fall silent, senators in their fine togas stop their conversations and incline their heads. Mothers point you out to their children. Their whispers of Socados Vestal is reaching you through the carriage window. It is a profound display of public reverence. You are not just respected, you are a living talisman. And your presence sanctifies the very ground you pass over. This right of way was absolute. To obstruct a Vestal's path was a serious offense. an act of disrespect not just to you, but to the goddess herself. Your unique status extends into the most exclusive spaces of Roman life, at the great games in the Colosseum or the chariot races in the Circus Maximus. You do not sit with the other women, who were typically relegated to the highest, least desirable seats. Instead, you are given a place of honor in a special box, alongside the senators and the imperial family. You watch the spectacle from a position of privilege, a visible symbol of the state's piety, even amidst the roaring crowds and brutal contests. This proximity to power is not merely ceremonial. You have a political voice, albeit a subtle and indirect one. Powerful men and women of Rome may seek a private audience with the Vestals Maxima, or even with a senior priestess like the one you are becoming. They do not come for religious guidance alone. They come to gauge the mood of the city's spiritual heart, to discreetly float a proposal, or to entrust you with sensitive information. They know that a word from the Vestals, whispered in the right ear, can carry immense weight. Your perceived impartiality makes you a trusted, if unofficial, mediator in the cutthroat world of Roman politics. But perhaps the most significant of your privileges is legal. You are sui juris under your own legal authority. While most Roman women passed from the control of their father Patria Potest as to that of their husband Manus, you are subject to neither. You are your own woman. The wealth you control, both the state stipend and any family inheritance, is yours to manage as you see fit. This financial independence gives you a level of agency that was almost unheard of. Some Vestals in history became known as shrewd property managers, owning and leasing out land and buildings across the city, accumulating significant personal fortunes. There's a curious and debated aspect of your legal power: the requirement to give testimony in court. Normally, a Vestal would not appear in a public courtroom. It was considered unseemly. Instead, if your testimony was required, the magistrate and lawyers would come to you, convening a special session within the hallowed quiet of the atrium. You would give your evidence from your own domain, a queen receiving court in her palace. Historians still discuss whether this was purely out of respect, or a clever way to keep the Vestals, with their trove of secrets, from being publicly cross-examined. One of the more obscure privileges you enjoy is related to your final wishes. Unlike others, your will and testament did not need the usual 7 witnesses to be considered valid. Your word, even on paper, was considered inculcate. The document was simply accepted as true and final. This was the ultimate expression of the trust the state placed in you. As you sit in your honored seat at the games, or manage the accounts of the property you now owe, the gilded nature of your cage becomes ever more apparent. You have freedom that other women can only dream of. You have wealth, influence, and the ear of the powerful. You are protected by law and revered by the populace. But these privileges are not free. They are the golden chains that bind you to your vow. Every nod of respect from a senator, every parcel of land you acquire, is another stone in the wall of your sacred duty. The price for all this power is your body, your fertility, your future. It's a trade you made as a child. And now, as a woman, you are living out the terms of that unbreakable contract every single day. The privileges are a constant, pleasant hum in the background of your life. But your core reality, the rhythm that dictates your every waking moment, is the duty, and at the center of that duty is the flame. You are now in your 2nd decade of service, the 10 years of practice. You are no longer just learning, you are doing, and the weight of that responsibility is a physical presence. Your turn has come. It is your week to be the led guardian of the fire. The shift begins at dusk. You enter the small, round Temple of Vesta, leaving the relative spaciousness of the atrium behind. The air inside is warm and thick with the scent of sacred olive oil, burning wood, and something else, something ancient and metallic. The single, central flame dances on its stone altar, casting flickering shadows on the curved walls. It seems to breathe in the stillness. For the next several hours, this flame is your sole focus. The fate of Rome, you have been taught, rests in your ability to keep it from faltering. You sit on a simple wooden stool, your posture erect, your hands resting in your lap. The silence in the temple is absolute, broken only by the soft crackle and hiss of the fire. Your mind, trained by years of meditation, must remain as still as the air around you. You cannot read, you cannot sew. You cannot let your thoughts drift to the political gossip of the city or the memory of your childhood home. Your entire being must be attuned to the flame. This is harder than it sounds. The mind naturally wanders. You might find yourself thinking about a conversation you had with another priestess, or the taste of the honeyed wine at dinner, and each time, you must gently, but firmly, pull your attention back to the light, back to the sound, back to the heat. It is a profound exercise in mindfulness, a spiritual discipline practiced under the highest possible stakes. Suddenly, a log shifts. It rolls, sending a shower of bright orange sparks into the air and causing the flame to dip, to shrink, to gutter for a single, heart-mind stopping moment. Your training takes over. You move with a speed and precision that is automatic, instinctual. You take the long bronze tongs, their surface cold to the touch, and carefully nudge the log back into place. You watch, your breath held, as the flame steadies, couches, and rises again, strong and confident. You feel a wave of relief so intense it's almost dizzying. It was a minor flicker, a common occurrence, but in that split second, you felt the cold dread of failure. You imagined the dark room, the sting of the Pontifex Max Immersive scourge, the shame that would stain your name forever. The consequences of the flame dying were not just personal, they were a national crisis. Historical records tell of instances when the fire was extinguished, and the city's reaction was one of panic. All public business would be suspended, the law courts would close, the temples would be draped in mourning. It was a state of emergency. The city would hold its breath until the Vestals, after performing purification rites and being punished for their negligence, could successfully relight the flame through the pure friction of wood or the focused ray of the sun. The collective sigh of relief that swept through Rome upon its relighting was said to be palpable. One of the lesser minus known, more peculiar aspects of tending the hearth was its continuous nature. The fire was never meant to be a roaring bonfire. It was a steady, eternal flame. This meant it required constant, gentle feeding. You couldn't just pile on logs and leave it for a few hours. This is a detail that some historians argue about. Was it a constant, 20-version watch, with Vestals in shifts through the night, or did they bang the embers carefully to last until morning? The consensus leans towards a continuous, vigilant watch. The risk was simply too great to do otherwise. This suggests a life of perpetual, low-level anxiety and broken sleep patterns, a silent exhaustion that was part of the job description. The night wears on. Each pop and crackle of the wood is a word in a language only you and your sisters understand. You learn the particular way the flame leans when a draft slips through a crack in the ancient stone. You learn the smell of wood that is too green, the sharp hiss it makes as it resists the fire. You are not just a guardian. You are a diagnostation of combustion. As the first hint of dawn begins to pale the sky outside, your shift ends. Another priestess arrives to relieve you, her face as serene and focused as yours. You exchange a silent nod. No words are needed. She understands the weight you have been carrying for the past several hours, the weight she is now taking upon herself. You step out of the temple and into the cool morning air. The forum is still quiet, but the city is beginning to stir. You take a deep breath, the tension slowly leaving your shoulders. You have succeeded. The flame still burns. Rome is safe. For another day. You walk back towards the atrium, towards your comfortable bed, feeling a weariness that is bone-mindless deep. It is not the weariness of physical labor, but the profound exhaustion of sustained, perfect vigilance. It is the price of being the keeper of the city's soul. Your duties extend beyond the hearth, into the shadows of the temple's most forbidden space. Today, the Vestals Maxima has decided. You are ready. You, along with one of your most trusted sisters, have been tasked with a ritual cleaning of the Temple Vesta, the sacred storeroom at the heart of the temple. This is a place of profound mystery. No man, not even the Pontifex Maximus, is ever permitted to enter. The secrets it holds are for the eyes of the Vestals alone. You approach the small, sealed door at the back of the temple. The air here feels different, heavier, charged with a static of immense age and power. The Vestals Maxima hands you a bronze key, its surface worn smooth by the hands of countless priestesses before you. Your hand trembles slightly as you insert it into the lock. The click of the tumblers seems to echo unnaturally in the confined space. With a deep breath, you and your sister push the heavy door inward. Its wings open on ancient, groaning hinges, revealing not a room, but a darkness so complete it feels solid. You light a small, pure-minded soil lamp, and its flickering glow pushes back the shadows, revealing a small, circular chamber, its walls aligned with stone shelves. The air is dry and still, smelling of dust, old wood, undozer. This is it, the place you have only heard about in hushed whispers, and the objects on the shelves there are at once underwhelming and overwhelming. You were perhaps expecting gleaming gold or dazzling jewels. Instead, the items are humble, their power residing not in their appearance, in their story. Your eyes are immediately drawn to the most famous object, the one you have been taught about since you were a novice. It is a small, wooden statue, no taller than your forearm, resting on a velvet cloth. The wood is dark, almost black with age, and the carving is crude, archaic. This is the Palladium, the legendary effigy of Pallas Athena that the hero Aeneas was said to have carried from the ashes of Troy. As you gaze upon it, you feel a tangible link to the mythic past, to the very foundation of the Roman people. To protect this small, wooden figure is to protect the legitimacy of the entire empire. But what else was here? This is where history blurs into legend, and even you, as a guardian, are not entirely certain of the origin of every object. There are clay urns, sealed with wax. What do they contain? One is said to hold the ashes of Orestes, the son of Agamemnon. Another, perhaps, the veil of a legendary queen. There is a wooden scepter, simple and unadorned. Could it be the one that belonged to Priam, the last king of Troy? The Vestals Maxima has taught you the official stories, but even she admits that some of the knowledge has been lost to time, the tales passed down becoming more symbolic than literal. One of the most curious, undebated collections of items in the Penis were not state treasures, but personal documents, the wills and testaments of powerful Romans, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Augustus himself. They all entrusted their final wishes to the Vestals. Why? Because the sanctity of this space, and your own inviolable status, made it the most secure vault in Rome. No one would dare to steal or forge were kept under Vesta's protection. This made you not just priestesses, but also the nation's most trusted archivists and safety deposit box managers. The political implications were enormous. The reading of a powerful man's who could shift alliances and spark civil wars. And you were the keepers of these explosive secrets. Your task today is simple, yet nerve-minus-racking. You and your sister must carefully lift each object, dust the shelves, and check for any signs of decay or damage. Every movement is slow, deliberate, infused with reverence. When you lift the clay urns, you do so with a gentle, two-handed grip, imagining the sacred dust shifting within. When you wipe the shelf beneath the Palladium, you are careful not to let even a corner of your cleaning cloth touch the statue itself. You feel the immense weight of the trust placed in you. You are guarding objects that are, in essence, priceless, not in terms of gold, but in terms of faith. Their power is derived from the collective belief of the Roman people. If these objects were ever lost, stolen, or destroyed, the psychological blow to the state would be catastrophic. It would be a sign that the Pignora Imperii, the pledges of rule, were broken. One small, strange object sits on a lower shelf. It looks like a lump of rock, but it has an odd, almost greasy sheen. This, you have been taught, is a sacred meteorite, a stone that fell from the heavens. It represents a direct link to the divine, a piece of the celestial realm made manifest on earth. Its presence here reinforces the idea that Rome's power is not just man-made, but cosmically ordained. After what feels like an eternity, the ritual cleaning is complete. Every object is back in its place, every shelf free of dust. You and your sister extinguish your lamp, plunging the room back into absolute darkness. You step back out into the temple and seal the door, the click of the lock once again sounding an Ingram loud. You have now been initiated into the innermost circle of trust. You have seen what no man is allowed to see. The knowledge of what lies behind that door is now a part of you. Another secret woven into the fabric of your soul. It's another chain, heavy and invisible, binding you to this temple, to this life. The flame is the public face of your duty, but these secrets, these are its hidden heart. The solemnity of your duties is heavy, a constant pressure on your shoulders. But life in the atrium is not without its moments of lightness. And none is more welcome than the arrival of June and the festival of the Vestal. For a few days, the oppressive quiet of your world is replaced by a strange and joyful noise. And you are, for a brief moment, the center of a city-wide celebration. The festival begins on June 9th, and the city transforms. The most striking change is the sight of donkeys. Everywhere, donkeys are adorned with garlands of flowers and strings of bread loaves, parading through the streets. Why donkeys? The official story, the one you help promote, is a charmingly bizarre myth. It's said that the god Priapus, a mischievous and lustful deity, once attempted to assault the goddess Vesta as she slept. Just as he was about to succeed, a nearby donkey let out a loud, startling bray, waking the goddess and saving her honor. As a reward, donkeys are given the day off from their usual labor of turning millstones, and they are celebrated as the unlikely heroes of divine purity. It's one of those stories that makes you wonder about the ancient mind. Was it a serious belief or a whimsical explanation for a much older, forgotten tradition? Historians still debate this. Some think the donkey was a primitive symbol of the agricultural laborer, and honoring it was a way of honoring the hard work that produces the grain Vesta protects. Others see a deeper symbolism in the braying donkey interrupting an act of impurity, a fable reinforcing the core values of the Vestal cult, whatever its origin. The sight of a flower-crowned donkey being led through the forum is a moment of pure, delightful absurdity in the otherwise stern Roman calendar. During the Vestal, the inner sanctum of the Temple of Vesta, normally forbidden to all but you, is open, not to men. Of course it would be unthinkable, but for these few days, the married women of Rome, the matronae, are allowed to enter the outer courts of the temple, the parts usually accessible only to you. They come barefoot, as a sign of humility and reverence, walking in a long, solemn procession from all corners of the city. You and your sister stand as hostesses, a strange and temporary role. You watch as thousands of women, their faces etched with a piety that is both genuine and a matter of public performance, file into the sacred space. They come to make offerings, small plates of food given to the goddess in thanks for the protection of their own family hearths. For these women, Vesta is not the grand protector of the empire, but the intimate guardian of their homes, their kitchens, their families. You see in their faces a life you will never know. You see the weariness of motherhood, the comfortable intimacy of a long marriage, the everyday worries and joys of a life lived in the world. They look at you with a mixture of awe and perhaps a little pity. You are a holy object to them, a being set apart. They see your pristine white robes, your serene expression, and they see a life free from the messiness of their own. They don't see the crushing weight of the flame, the terror of a misspoken prayer, or the profound loneliness that can sometimes creep into the quiet corridors of the atrium. One of the oddest parts of the festival is the food, specifically, The ritual offerings made by the women, they wouldn't offer fine cuts of meat or expensive wine. Instead, they brought simple, humble foods prepared in a pot, a tradition that was meant to be ancient and rustic. What exactly this meant is another source of fun academic squabbling. Was it literally a specific type of pot? Or did it refer to any food cooked by boiling or baking, as opposed to raw or grilled? It was likely a symbolic rejection of luxury in favor of old miners' fashion. Simple purity, a culinary echo of the barefoot procession. As a Vestal, you do not mingle, but you preside. You ensure the rituals are observed correctly, that the offerings are placed properly. Your presence is a guarantee of the ceremony's effectiveness. After the women have made their offerings and departed, the temple floor is littered with thousands of small terracotta plates of food. The festival culminates on June 15th, a day of purification. It is your job, along with the city's sanitation workers, to perform a ritual cleansing of the temple. The accumulated offerings, the dust from thousands of bare feet, all the remnants of the public celebration, are carefully swept up. This sweeping staircase was not just discarded as common trash, it was considered sacred, imbued with the energy of the festival. It was carried with great ceremony and deposited at a specific spot halfway up the Capitoline Hill, and then, in a final act, likely flushed into the Tiber River. It's a strange image. The holy refuse of the goddess being ceremonial swept into the city's main sewer. As the last of the sweepings are cleared away and the temple doors are once again sealed to the public, a quiet calm descends. The festival is over. The donkeys go back to work, the matrons go back to their homes, and you go back to your silent, vigilant life. The brief connection to the outside world is severed, and your gilded cage is once again locked. The Vestal is a beautiful, strange, and welcome break, but it also serves as a poignant reminder of the wall invisible, but absolute that separates your life from the lives of all other women. The echo of the festival fades, and your life returns to its familiar, quiet rhythm. The days in the atrium are governed by a routine so ingrained it feels less like a schedule and more like breathing. It's a life of peaceful monotony, a carefully constructed environment designed to foster contemplation and eliminate distraction. Your morning begins before dawn, with the gentle ringing of a small bronze bell. You rise in the cool darkness, dress in your simple under-minus tunic, and then don the layers of your formal white robes. The process is a ritual in itself. The stone lay, the woolen ribbons of the intruder, the outer pillar. Each layer is a reminder of your status and your vows. The first communal act of the day is a prayer, recited in unison in a special chapel within the atrium. The words are ancient, the Latin archaic, a language that feels heavy and powerful on your tongue. The prayer is not a request, but an affirmation and alignment of your small community with the great divine forces that govern the universe. After prayers, a simple breakfast is served in a communal dining hall. The food is good but not extravagant. Fresh bread, cheese, olives, perhaps some fruit and watered wine. The conversation is muted, focused on the day's duties. Who is on fire watch? Which rituals need preparing? Is there a need to bake a new batch of mola salsa? It's the professional chatter of a highly specialized team. The heart of your day is spent performing your assigned tasks. If you are not on active fire duty in the temple, you might be weaving. Weaving was a traditional and highly respected activity for Roman women, and for the Vestals. It had a spiritual dimension. You are not just making cloth. You are metaphorically weaving the fabric of the state's security. The cloth you produce might be used for sacred banners, for the robes of new novices, or for other ritual purposes. The steady, rhythmic clack of the loom is a constant background sound in the atrium, a soothing mantra of productive piety. Or you might be studying. The library of the Vestals was said to be extensive, containing not just religious texts but also works of history, philosophy, and law. As a priestess, you are expected to be learned. A senior Vestal might be tutoring the novices. her voice a low, steady murmur as she explains the intricacies of a forgotten festival or the genealogy of a minor god. You might be tasked with copying a sacred text, your hand cramping as you painstakingly form the letters with a reed pen and ink. The atrium itself is your world. You know every stone in the courtyard, every statue in the colonnade. You know which rose bush blooms first in the spring, and where the sun hits the pools of water in the late afternoon. This is one of the most debated aspects of your life. How isolated was it really? Some ancient sources portray the atrium as a virtual prison, a place of total seclusion. Others suggest a more porous boundary, with the Vestals having a fair degree of freedom to move about the city on official business. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. Your life was circumscribed, but you were not a hermit. You were a public figure, and your duties often required you to be seen. One of the more peculiar, humanizing details that archaeology has given us comes from the statues that line your courtyard. These were honorary statues, erected by powerful men or the state in recognition of a particular Vestal, is Maxima's long and faithful service. The inscriptions often praise her piety and devotion, but sometimes they were erected by family members, a brother, a nephew praising their sweetest sister or dearest aunt. It's a touching reminder that despite severing your legal ties, the emotional bonds of family sometimes endured. You might have seen your relatives on special occasions, a quiet acknowledgement of a life that still ran parallel to your own. The afternoon might bring a moment of leisure. You could walk in the gardens, the sounds of the city a distant roar beyond the high walls. You might engage in conversation with your sisters, sharing stories, quiet jokes, or concerns. These relationships are the most important in your life. Your sisters are your colleagues, your confidants, and your keepers. You rely on each other for emotional support in a way no one else can. There is a deep, abiding loyalty, but perhaps also, as in any small, insular community, a potential for rivalry and tension. As evening approaches, the cycle begins to wind down. Another simple meal is served as dusk settles over the city. The final prayers of the day are offered, and a deep quiet falls over the great house. Before you sleep, you might look out your window towards the small, round temple. You can see the constant, gentle glow of the flame, the moon, golden pulse in the darkness. It's a comforting sight, a reminder of your shared purpose. Your sister on duty is there, watching, just as you have watched, and just as you will watch again. You are all cogs in a sacred, perpetual machine, and in that shared, rhythmic existence, there is a strange and profound peace. The quiet rhythm of your days is one side of your reality, the other is the sudden, unpredictable intrusion of the outside world, moments that remind you of the strange and potent power you wield. One sweltering afternoon, as you are walking back to the atrium from a rite at a nearby shrine, it happens. The street ahead is choked with a shouting, agitated crowd. Your Encyclopedia, walking before you, strikes his staff on the ground, but the people are too consumed by the spectacle to notice. As you draw closer, you see the cause of the commotion. A man, his hands bound behind his back and his face pale with terror, is being dragged through the street by a group of city guards. He is a condemned criminal, being led to his execution. His crime is irrelevant. He could be a thief, a murderer, a political dissident. Under Roman law, his life is now forfeit. He is no longer a person, but an object to be disposed of. The crowd jeers and throws refuse. Their faces a mixture of morbid curiosity and righteous anger. Then, he sees you. His eyes, wide with panic, lock onto your white robes, your veiled head. His struggling ceases for a moment. A flicker of something wild and desperate enters his expression, not hope. Exactly, but the last, frantic gamble of a doomed man. As your paths are about to cross, he makes a lunge, a desperate, clumsy movement, and throws himself to the ground directly in front of you. The guards try to pull him away, but he clings to the dusty paving stones, his gaze fixed on you. The crowd falls silent. The jeers die in their throats. Everyone stops to watch. This is a rare and sacred moment, an ancient tradition being invoked before their very eyes. For you have a power that is almost mythical. If a condemned criminal, on his way to execution, happens to cross the path of a Vestal virgin, his life is spared. He is immediately pardoned and set free. It's an extraordinary privilege, one of the most dramatic you possess. But it comes with a heavy caveat, one that historians and legal scholars love to dissect. The encounter must be purely accidental. It cannot be planned. If it were ever proven that the meeting was arranged, that the criminal's friends had tipped you off, or that you had deliberately altered your route to intercept him, the pardon would be void. And you, for your part in the conspiracy, would face severe punishment. So now, you are faced with a terrible choice, and you must make it in an instant. Under the gaze of 100 silent witnesses, you must swear an oath, right here in the middle of the street, that this meeting was a coincidence. Your word alone is what matters. You look down at the man groveling at your feet. You look at the grim, minus-faced guards, their hands still on his bonds. You look at the sea of faces in the crowd, all waiting to see what the holy priestess will do. Your heart pounds in your chest. Was it an accident? You were simply walking your usual route. He was being led along his final path. Your trajectories intersected. It seems to be a genuine coincidence. You raise your hand, a gesture of solemn authority. Your voice, when you speak it, is clear and steady, betraying none of the turmoil you feel inside. You make the required declaration. You swear by Vesta, by the sacred flame, and by all the gods of Rome that you did not plan this encounter. A collective sigh ripples through the crowd. The chief guard nods, a look of grim resignation on his face. He gives a sharp command, and his men release the prisoner's bonds. The man, now free, scrambles to his feet. He doesn't look at you again. To do so would be improper. He simply melts back into the crowd, disappearing from sight. A ghost given a second chance at life. You stand there for a moment, the eye of a silent storm. The power you have just wielded is immense. It is the power of life and death, a power usually reserved for emperors and gods, and it was triggered by nothing more than a chance encounter on a summer afternoon. As you continue your walk back to the atrium, the quiet of your home seems different. The serenity you so often feel is now tinged with the adrenaline of what has just occurred. The incident highlights the strange duality of your existence. You live a life of seclusion and routine, seemingly detached from the messy realities of the world. Yet, at any moment, you can step out your door and, by your mere presence, overturn the state's most final judgment. Why did this tradition exist? Some scholars believe it was a symbolic expression of the Vestals' role as conduits of divine mercy, a sacred circuit breaker in the harsh machinery of Roman justice. Others suggest a more pragmatic origin, that it was a way of reinforcing the Vestals. Inviolably, her path was so sacred that not even the process of law could be allowed to obstruct it. Whatever the reason, for the man who just vanished into the alleys of Rome, the academic debate is meaningless. For him, you were not just a priestess, you were a miracle, and for you, it is a stark and unsettling reminder that your sacredness is not a passive quality. It is an active, and sometimes terrifying, force in the world. The years pass. Your face, once round with childhood, has settled into the serene, composed mask of a seasoned priestess. You have performed every ritual, chanted every prayer, and guarded the flame through countless silent nights. You are an institution now, a familiar and respected figure in the religious life of the city. But with this seniority comes a new and heavier burden, the weight of being a symbol. It's something you feel most acutely during public processions. As you walk along the sacred way, the crowds no longer see just a woman in white robes. They see Vesta. They see Rome. They see purity, stability, and the divine favor that keeps the empire from crumbling. Your body is no longer your own private vessel. It has become public property, a canvas onto which an entire city projects its hopes and fears. You feel it in the way people look at you. Their gaze is not personal, it is scrutinizing. They are not looking at you, but at the idea of you. Is your robe perfectly white? Is your hair perfectly coiffed beneath your veil? Is your expression suitably pious and serene? Any deviation from the ideal, any sign of human imperfection, would be noted, whispered about, and potentially interpreted as a bad omen if you stumbled on an uneven paving stone. It wasn't just a clumsy moment. It could be a sign that the foundations of the state weren't steady. This intense scrutiny creates a kind of psychological pressure that is hard to describe. You start to see yourself from the outside, constantly monitoring your own posture, your gestures, your facial expression. It's a performance, but one that runs 24 hours a day, with no breaks and no backstage. The mask of the serene priestess becomes so fused to your face that you sometimes forget what your own, scrutinized expression even feels like. The symbolic burden extended to the most intimate aspects of your being. Your virginity, once a simple fact of your physical state, has become a potent and terrifying metaphor. You are the virgin city, pure and unbleached. Any hint of scandal surrounding you was not just gossip. It was a threat to the symbolic integrity of Rome itself. In times of crisis or military defeat, a summon, a plague the public's anxiety would often fixate on you and your sisters, were the Vestal less pure, had some secrets been committed, angering the gods and bringing this misfortune upon the city. You became a spiritual lightning rod for the collective anxieties of the empire. Historians have noted a chilling correlation. Accusations against Vestals for breaking their vows often spiked during periods of significant state stress. When the legions were defeated on a distant frontier, or when the grain ships from Egypt were late. It was somehow easier to blame a woman's perceived impurity than to confront the complex realities of military or economic failure. This is a pattern seen throughout history, the projection of societal fears onto a vulnerable, symbolic figure. One of the more peculiar and debated manifestations of this symbolic weight was the Vestals diet, while you lived in luxury. Some ancient sources suggest that certain foods were prescribed, perhaps those associated with fertility or worldly excess. Whether this is true or just later embellishment is a matter of scholarly debate. But the idea that your very diet had to be curated to maintain your symbolic purity speaks volumes. What you consumed was not just for your own nourishment, but for the nourishment of the state's spiritual health. Every bite was, in a way, a political act. You feel this burden most profoundly in the quiet moments. Alone in your chamber, you might catch your reflection in a polished bronze mirror and see not your own face, but the face of a public icon. You see the faint lines of stress around your eyes, the product of years of sleepless vigilance and constant self-monitoring. You feel a deep and abiding loneliness, the loneliness of being a symbol rather than a person. People revere you, but no one truly knows you. They cannot. To know you, with all your human complexities and imperfections, would be to shatter the illusion they so desperately need to believe in. You are trapped in a metaphor. Your body is not a site of personal experience, but a text to be read by the public. Your health is the health of the state. Your purity is the security of the empire. Your every breath is a prayer for Rome. This is the ultimate fulfillment of the words spoken by the Pontifex Maximus all those years ago. I take you. He did not just take a child from her family. He took a human being and transformed her into a sacred object, a living statue to be placed on the altar of Roman civic religion. And as you grow older, you realize the immense, soul-crushing weight of being made of stone. The peaceful, ordered world of the atrium is a fragile ecosystem. It relies on trust, shared purpose, and the silent understanding that binds you and your 5 sisters together. But even in this most sacred of spaces, human nature can find a way to curdle the air. It begins, as it so often does, with a whisper. Her name is I see you near. She is one of the younger priestesses. Perhaps in her 8th or 9th year of service, she is beautiful, with a quick laugh and a vivacious energy that has always set her slightly apart from the more somber members of the sisterhood. You have always found her charming, if a little careless. The whisper starts outside the atrium's walls. In the gossiping heart of the city, a rumor, slippery and venomous, begins to circulate. It links Lyciania's name with that of a handsome, ambitious young nobleman from a powerful family. It speaks of secret meetings, of notes passed through servants, of glances held a moment too long at public ceremonies. At first, you and your sisters dismiss it. It's the usual vile chatter of the city, envious and cruel. The Vestals have always been targets for such slander. You close ranks, protecting Lyciania with a wall of collective silence, confident that the rumor will die from lack of oxygen. But it doesn't. It grows. The whispers seep under the gates of the atrium, carried in by servants, by the nervous looks of visiting dignitaries, by the sudden chill you feel in the air when Lyciania's name is mentioned. The rumor begins to poison the quiet of your home. You start to notice things. A new tension during the communal meals, conversations that stop abruptly when Lyciania enters the room. You see your sisters watching her. Their faces a mixture of suspicion, fear, and a terrible, pitying sorrow. The easy camaraderie you once shared is replaced by a guarded watchfulness. Every word, every gesture is now freighted with a potential double meaning. You find yourself watching her, too, and you hate yourself for it. You analyze her behavior, searching for clues, for confirmation or denial. Does she seem more distracted than usual during her fire watch? Was that a blush or just the heat from the hearth? Did she seem nervous when the Pontifex Maximus was mentioned? You have become a detective in your own home, and the potential crime is one that could bring ruin upon all of you. The trust that was the bedrock of your community is beginning to crack. Before, if a sister seemed troubled, you would approach her with concern. Now, you hesitate. Is she troubled because of the rumors? Or is she troubled by a guilty conscience? The sisterhood, once your source of strength, is becoming a network of mutual surveillance. One of the more obscure and frankly bizarre historical details surrounding accusations of incest was the so minuscule trial by water. Though its actual use is heavily debated by historians and might be more folklore than fact, the story itself is revealing. It was said that a Vestal under suspicion could be forced to carry water from the Tiber River in a sieve. If the sieve held the water without leaking a physical impossibility, it was a sign from the gods of her innocence. The legend of a Vestal named Tuchias supposedly succeeding in this impossible task was a popular tale, while likely a myth. It illustrates the desperate need for a sign, for some divine proof to cut through the poison of human suspicion. In the absence of such a miracle, you are left with only doubt. You see that all this is taking on Lyciania. The quick laugh is gone, replaced by a haunted, defensive look in her eyes. She isolates herself, spending more time in her chambers, avoiding the communal spaces. She knows she is being watched, judged by the very women who should be her protectors. Is it the isolation of an innocent, wrongly accused, or the isolation of a guilty party, terrified of discovery? You cannot tell, and that is the true horror of it. The rumor has made it impossible to know. One evening, you are on duty at the Flame. Lyciania is on the shift after yours. She arrives to relieve you, her face pale in the flickering light. The usual silent nod of transition is not enough tonight. You look at her, really look at her, and in a low voice, you ask, "Are you well, sister?" Her eyes fill with tears. For a moment, you think she is going to break down, to confess or to furiously deny, but she just shakes her head. A single tear tracing a path through the fine dust on her cheek. "The fire is my only friend left," she whispers, her voice hoarse. You leave her there, her small figure silhouetted against the eternal flame. Your heart aches for her, for the girl she was, but a cold knot of fear tightens in your stomach. An accusation against one of you is an accusation against all of you. A flaw in one link threatens the entire chain. The city's anxieties are rising. Whispers of a recent military setback are on everyone's lips, and they will need a reason, a scapegoat. The whisper that started as idle gossip is now a gathering storm, and you are all standing in its path. The storm breaks. The rumors have grown too loud, the public anxiety too palpable to be ignored. The matter is now official. The Pontifex Maximus has launched a formal inquiry. The age of whispers is over. The time of judgment has begun. The chief priest arrives at the atrium not with the quiet deference of a routine visit, but with the grim formality of a judge. He is accompanied by several other priests from the College of Pontiffs. Their faces stern and unreadable. They do not enter the inner sanctumness of your home, but convene a special tribunal in one of the grand, public reception halls of the atrium. The air is thick with a terrifying, sacred authority. You and your 5 sisters are summoned. You walk together into the hall, a phalanx of white robes, and take your places. You try to present a united front, a solid wall of serene innocence, but you can feel the cracks. You can sense the fear radiating from Lycia, who stands beside you, trembling almost imperceptibly. You can feel the nervous tension in the posture of the sister on your other side. The bond of the sisterhood, already frayed, is now being formally tested, and it feels as fragile as ancient papiers. The inquiry begins. It is not a trial in the modern sense. There are no lawyers arguing points of law. It is a religious investigation, a search for a spiritual stain. The Pontifex Maximus begins by questioning the servants of the atrium. A nervous kitchen maid is brought forward, then a stable hand, then one of the senior attendants. They are asked about her Lycian movements, about any visitors she may have received, any messages passed, any deviations from her routine. You listen as the mundane details of your life are twisted into something sinister. A walk in the garden that lasted a few minutes too long is presented as a potential rendezvous. A piece of fine cloth found in her chambers, a gift from her family, is questioned as a possible love token. It's a chilling demonstration of how innocence can be reframed as guilt when the conclusion is already half minus full. Then, the nobleman whose name has been linked with Lycian is brought in. He is handsome, arrogant, and terrified. He vehemently denies everything. Of course, his denials are a mixture of blustering pride and panicked fear. To be convicted of seducing a Vestal is not just a crime. It is an act of supreme sacrilege. The punishment is severe, to be scourged to death in a public forum. His life is on the line, just as Lycian is. The core of the investigation, however, rests on a strange and disturbing piece of religious doctrine. According to Roman belief, a Vestal-less guilt or innocence would manifest itself in her work, specifically, in her tending of the sacred flame. It was believed that a polluted priestess, one who had broken her vow, would be unable to successfully perform her duties. Her impurity would, in a sense, repel the divine fire. So the Pontifex Maximus turns his questioning to you and your sisters. Has the sacred flame faltered? He asks, his voice echoing in the silent hall. Has it sputtered or died on anyone's watch? You all answer no, truthfully. The flame has burned steadily, but this is where the ambiguity of divine science becomes so cruel. The fact that the flame has not gone out is not considered definitive proof of innocence. It could simply mean the gods have not yet chosen to reveal the sin. Then comes the most difficult part. The Pontifex Maximus begins to question each of you, individually, about Lycia. He is not just asking for facts. He is asking for your impressions, your suspicions. He is formally inviting the poison of doubt into your sisterhood. Have you noticed a change in her spirit? A lack of devotion, a worldly distraction? This is the moment that historians and sociologists find fascinating. Under this kind of pressure, in a closed and fearful society, how does a group behave? Do they protect their own or do they sacrifice one to save the rest? The historical record shows both have happened. There are accounts of Vestals defending their accused sister to the last, and there are accounts of them turning on her, their testimonies, born of fear, providing the final nails for her coffin. You are asked to speak. You look at Elysiania, her face a mask of white terror. You look at the stern faces of the priests. You think of the whispers, the rumors I dubbing tools, the strain of the past few weeks. What do you say? Do you speak of her recent sadness and isolation? If you do, you are telling the truth. But you know it will be interpreted as evidence of a guilty conscience. Do you lie and say you have noticed nothing? That her devotion is as perfect as ever? If you do, you risk being implicated yourself if she is found guilty. The unspoken question hanging in the air is heavy and cold. Is it better for one to be sacrificed even unjustly than for the entire institution of the Vestals to be tainted by prolonged suspicion? In a time of public crisis, a swift, clean resolution as scapegoat is often what the state desires. Your personal feelings, your loyalty to your sister, are pitted against your duty to the stability of Rome. You give a careful, non-committal answer, speaking only of the duties you have shared and the prayers you have recited together. It is a cowardly response, perhaps, but it is a safe one. As you step back, you avoid Elysiania's gaze. A profound sense of shame washes over you. The sisterhood, your sacred family, has broken. It has been shattered by fear and suspicion, turned into a collection of frightened individuals trying to save themselves. And the inquiry is not even over. The inquiry concludes. The verdict is delivered. Guilty. Elysiania is found to have broken her sacred vow. The evidence is flimsy, a tapestry woven from rumor, coerced testimony, and the immense pressure of public anxiety. But it doesn't matter. A decision has been made. A sacrifice is required to purify the state and appease the gods. The nobleman she was accused with is dragged away to be scourged to death. For Elysiania, a different, far more elaborate and terrifying fate awaits. The day of her punishment arrives. It is a day of grim, public spectacle. You and your remaining sisters are required to attend, to bear witness. To refuse would be unthinkable. Your presence is part of the ritual. The ceremony begins not with anger, but with a chilling, solemn quiet. It is styled as a living funeral. Elysiania is stripped of her white Vestal robes, the symbols of her purity and status now rendered a mockery. She is dressed in the simple, coarse garments of a moonlit, whose hair, once carefully arranged in the 6 minus parts tile of a bride, the sexy rinds, a style you also wear, is unpinned and left to hang loose and disheveled, as if she were already a corpse. A procession is formed. It is a slow, dreadful parade through the streets of Rome, but it is unlike any other procession you have ever been a part of. There are no cheering crowds. The streets are lined with silent, somber citizens. All business in the city has ceased. A funereal hush has fallen over the normally chaotic metropolis. The mood is not one of celebration at a traitor's downfall, but of deep, fearful mourning. They are not just mourning the death of a woman. They are mourning a rupture in the divine order. Elysiania is placed in a closed litter, the kind used to carry the dead to their pyres. It is sealed and bound with leather straps, so that she cannot see out and no one can see in. It's a bizarre and cruel detail. She is treated as if she is already a corpse, being transported to her tomb. The Pontifex Maximus and the other high priests walk ahead, their heads bowed, chanting prayers not of condemnation, but of lamentation. You and your sisters walk behind the litter. You can hear nothing from inside, but you can imagine her in there, alone in the swaying darkness, being carried through the city she once protected. Your own face must remain a mask of impassive piety. You cannot weep. You cannot show any sign of grief or protest. To do so would be to question the judgment of the pontiffs and the gods. You are part of the performance. Your serene presence a testament to the fact that the institution of the Vestals endures, even as one of its members is cut away like a diseased limb. This living funeral procession is one of the most psychologically complex rituals in Roman culture, and historians still grapple with its meaning. Is it an act of mercy allowing her to die symbolically before her physical death, thus separating the sacred Vestal from the sinner who is to be punished? Or is it an act of supreme psychological cruelty, forcing her to experience her own funeral, to be mourned by the very city she is accused of betraying? It is likely both. It is a way for Rome to process a terrible paradox: how to kill a woman whose life was sacred and inviolable. The answer was to first ritually strip her of that sacredness, to turn her from a living priestess into a walking ghost. One of the strangest, most debated elements of the procession is the route it takes. It winds through the heart of the city, past the Forum, past the great temples, a final tour of the world she is about to leave forever. It is a public display of her fall from grace. Everyone must see what happens when the city's purity is compromised. As you walk, your feet moving in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, you feel a profound sense of detachment. This can't be real. This can't be the same girl who once laughed in the gardens at the atrium. The whole event has the quality of a nightmare. Meticulously choreographed and horribly vivid, you catch the eyes of people in the crowd. You see no malice there, only a deep, superstitious fear. They look at LICNIAS sealed litter as if it contains a contagion, a plague that must be excised from the city and buried in the earth. You look at your sisters. Their faces are pale, their eyes fixed straight ahead. You wonder what they are thinking. Are they relieved that the suspicion has been focused on one person, leaving the rest of them safe? Are they terrified, wondering who might be next? Or are they simply numb, shutting down their emotions in order to survive this ordeal? The procession moves slowly, inexorably, towards the city road. You are leaving the sacred heart of Rome and heading for a place on the outskirts. A place with a dark and sinister name. The sun beats down on your veiled head. The silence of the crowd is a heavy blanket, and inside the dark, swaying box, a living girl is being carried to her grave. The procession finally halts. You have reached the city limits, passing through the old Servian wall at the Colini Gate. You are now in a place that feels spiritually, as well as physically, outside of Rome. This is the Campus Acceleratus, the evil field, or the polluted field. The name itself is a whisper of dread. This is a piece of unconsecrated ground, a place tainted and set apart, reserved for this one specific, horrific purpose. The air he feels different. The familiar, vibrant energy of Rome is gone, replaced by a sullen, barren stillness. The field is dusty and sparse, with only a few withered minus-looking trees. It's a place where nothing good could ever grow. This is where Rome performs the acts it cannot bear to witness within its own sacred boundaries. It is a place of exile and of death. The crowd keeps its distance, forming a wide, silent circle. They will not step onto this polluted ground. Only the priests, the executioners, you and your sisters, until I see Nia are permitted to enter this final, terrible state. The seal glitter down on the dusty earth. The leather straps are unbound, and the door is opened. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, Nia emerges, blinking in the harsh sunlight. She is pale, her face streaked with grime and tears, but she is surprisingly composed. A strange, almost defiant calm has settled over her. Perhaps, after the terror of the unknown, the certainty of the end brings its own kind of peace. The Pontifex Maximus steps forward. He does not look at her. He looks to the heavens, his arms raised, and he recites a final, solemn prayer. It is a prayer of separation, a final act of cutting Nia off from the community of the living. He speaks of the need to purify the state, to restore the Pax Deum, the peace with the gods that her actions have broken. He is not speaking to her, or even about her as a person. He is addressing the abstract forces of fate and divine justice. It's a chillingly impersonal moment. As he prays, your eyes drift to the center of the field. You see what has been prepared. It is a small, newly constructed mound of earth, with a set of steep, narrow steps leading down into the ground. It looks like the entrance to a root cellar, or a small, humble tomb, but you know it is neither. This method of execution, being immured or walled up alive, was not invented for the Vestals, but it was most famously associated with them. Why this specific Baroque form of punishment? The primary reason, as you have known for years, was to circumvent the law against spilling a Vestal's blood. By sealing her in a chamber, she is not directly killed by a human hand. Her death, whether from suffocation, dehydration, or starvation, is technically left to the gods. It's a piece of legal and religious sophistry that allows the state to commit a necessary murder while keeping its hands ritually clean. But scholars have long debated deeper, symbolic meanings. Some argue that it's a terrifyingly literal return to the earth. Her body, which was supposed to be a pure and sacred vessel, a kind of living temple, has become polluted. Therefore, it is returned to the earth, the ultimate source of all life and decay. She is, in a sense, being buried in the very things she was meant to nurture and protect. Others see a grim symmetry. A priestess of Vesta, the goddess of the hearth and home, is punished by being sealed within a dark, cold, underground anti-Midas hole. Her life was lived in a house of light and warmth. Her death will be in a place of darkness and cold. A small, unsettling detail from some historical accounts suggests that the condemned Vestal's lover, the man who was scourged to death, would be executed at the same time, in a different part of the city. The two events, though separate, were part of the same ritual cleansing. His blood would be spilled to atone for his part in the sacrilege, while her body would be entombed to contain her pollution. The Pontifex Maximus finishes his prayer. The moment has come. He lowers his arms and, without looking at her, gestures towards the underground chamber. To grim Midas-faced attendants, their faces veiled so as not to look upon the condemned, take Elysiania by the arms. She does not struggle. She walks with a steady, deliberate gait towards the steps leading down into the earth. She holds her head high. Is it courage? Is it shock? Or is it the ultimate acceptance of a fate she can no longer fight? You will never know. As she reaches the top of the stairs, she pauses. She turns her head and her gaze sweeps over you and your sisters. One last time. There is no anger in her eyes, no accusation, only a vast, bottomless sadness. And in that final look, she is no longer the accused, the sinner, the scapegoat. She is just Elysiania, your sister, and you are about to watch her be buried alive. She takes the first step down, disappearing from the bright sunlight into the waiting shadow of the earth. The attendants release her arms, and she continues her descent alone. You watch until the top of her disheveled head is gone from view, swallowed by the darkness. A heavy silence hangs over the evil field. Now, the final, bizarre stage of the ritual begins. Several men come forward, carrying a small collection of items. They walk to the edge of the pit and carefully lower them down to Elysiania. First, a simple wooden bed, little more than a pallet. Then, a small terracotta lamp, containing just enough oil to burn for a few hours. After that, a loaf of bread and a flask of water. This is perhaps the most psychologically cruel part of the entire ordeal. She is not simply thrown into an empty hole. She is provided with the means for a brief, futile survival. A bed to lie on, a light to see by, a meal to eat. It's a macabre parody of domestic life. A final, mocking gesture towards the hearth she has been cast out from. What is the purpose of these items? Historians have argued over this for centuries. On one level, it reinforces the legal fiction that she is not being executed. The state is not actively killing her. It is merely leaving her in a furnished room from which she cannot escape. Her eventual death is her own affair, a private matter between her and the gods. On another, more symbolic level, it's a gesture of profound piety. The Romans were deeply superstitious about the rights of the dead. Denying a soul the proper provisions for its journey to the underworld was a grave offense that could create a vengeful ghost. By providing these minimal items, they are, in a strange way, giving her proper burial, even though she is still alive. It is a ritual designed to soothe the conscience of the state and prevent her spirit from returning to haunt the city. You try to imagine what she's doing down there, in the cold, damp earth. Is she lighting the lamp? Is she sitting on the cot? Can she hear the shuffling feet and muted commands of the men above? The thought is almost unbearable. The chamber is small, perhaps no larger than a storage closet. The ceiling is low. The air is already beginning to feel thick and stale. It is the ultimate claustrophobic nightmare. One of the most debated questions among scholars is the exact design of these tombs. Were they simple pits or more elaborate chambers? Archaeological evidence is scarce, as these were not permanent structures meant to be monuments. They were built for a single, terrible purpose and then sealed forever. Some believe they were simple earth-minus-dub pits with a timber roof. Others, based on written accounts, suggest they were more robust, with stone-lined walls and a vaulted ceiling. A true underground cell. This lack of certainty only adds to the horror, allowing the imagination to fill in the grim details. Now the masons approach. They carry not stones, but bricks and mortar. They are the final actors in this tragedy. Their job is to seal the entrance, to turn the chamber into a true tomb. They work with a practiced, impersonal efficiency, their faces blank. They are not murderers. They are craftsmen, performing a task assigned to them by the state. The first brick is laid. The sound of the trowel scraping mortar is obscenely loud in the quiet field. Then another brick, and another. A wall is rising, brick by brick, covering the dark opening into the earth. With each brick, the last sliver of daylight is being stolen from LIC and near. The possibility of escape, a reprieve, of a last-minute miracle, is being methodically walled off. You watch, mesmerized and horrified. This is not a swift, clean death like beheading. It is a slow, creeping process of erosua. She is being deliberately, painstakingly sealed away from the world of the living. You wonder what she is thinking as she hears the sounds from above, as she sees her only connection to the outside world being bricked up. Does she scream? Does she pray? Or does she simply sit in silence on her cot, watching the light from her small lamp flicker against the damp walls, waiting for the inevitable darkness? The work continues, relentless and steady. The wall grows higher. The men work without speaking, their movements economical and precise. They are building a monument to a broken vow, a permanent scar on this polluted field. You feel a wave of nausea, a dizzying sense of unreality. A bird is singing in a distant, withered tree. The world continues its ordinary course, while just a few feet away, a woman is being walled into the earth. It is a moment of profound and terrible cognitive dissonance. The mundane and the monstrous, existing side by side in the afternoon sun. The wall is nearly complete. Only a small, dark rectangle remains at the top. A final, suffocating window. The masons work with a grim rhythm, their movements practiced and efficient. Scrape, mortar, brick, scrape, mortar, brick. Each sound is a hammer blow against the silence, a nail in a coffin that is still occupied by the living. You stand frozen, a statue of white linen, silent horror. You can no longer see into the tomb, but you know she is there. You can almost feel her presence. A pocket of cold terror just beneath the surface of the earth. What a hurl are sensations. The smell of damp soil and extinguishing lamp oil. The chilling descent of the temperature as the warmth of the sun is permanently blocked. And the sound. The steady, methodical scrape and tap of the masons. The soundtrack to the end of her world. Then, the final brick is lifted into place. The mason carefully applies the mortar, slides the brick into the gap, and taps it firmly with the handle of his trowel. The sound is flat, final, a perfect seal. The last sliver of darkness is now solid wall. The connection is severed. She is gone. She is not dead yet, but she has been fully erased from the world of the living. The masons smooth the mortar over the final joints, their work neat and clean. They gather their tools and step back. Their part in the ritual complete. A profound and terrible silence descends upon the evil field. It is done. The Pontifex Maximus steps forward one last time. He performs a final rite of purification over the site, sprinkling consecrated water on the freshly sealed tomb. He is not purifying Lycaonia. He is purifying the world from her. He is cleansing the community of the stain she represented, cauterizing the wound she inflicted on the body politic of Rome. The earth itself, which has been forced to receive this polluted thing, must be spiritually cleansed. You and your sisters are then led away. As you walk back towards the city gate, you do not look back. To look back would be to acknowledge a lingering connection, to invite the taint of this place to follow you. You must leave it behind. A bad dream abandoned on the edge of the city. The crowd of citizens, who have been watching from a safe distance, begins to disperse. They walk away in silence, their faces grim. They have witnessed the restoration of order, the appeasement of the gods. They can now return to their homes, their businesses, their lives, with the reassuring knowledge that the cosmic balance has been reset. The price for their peace of mind is a girl sealed in a box underground. As you remain ascend to the city, the familiar sights and sounds of Rome feel alien, dreamlike. How can this world of vibrant, chaotic life exist so close to that silent, waiting death? The contrast is jarring, sickening. One of the details that historians debate is what happened to the site afterwards. Was the mound left as a permanent grim warning, or was it eventually leveled, the memory of the specific execution deliberately erased, leaving only the field's generally sinister reputation? There is no clear answer. The idea of a field dotted with the unmarked, sealed tombs of former priestesses is a chilling one. A hidden graveyard of the sacred. That night, back in the pristine, quiet halls of the atrium, the silence is different. It is no longer the peaceful, contemplative quiet of a holy place. It is a heavy, suffocating silence, thick with unspoken thoughts and shared trauma. There are only 5 of you now at the dinner table. The empty space where Lycaonia used to sit is a screaming void. No one mentions her name. To speak of her would be to invoke her ghost, to invite her fate into the room. She has been ritually, conversationally, and physically erased. You lie in your bed, staring into the darkness, but all you can see is the image of that final brick sliding into place. You try to pray, but the familiar words feel hollow, meaningless. What god would sanction such a thing? You think of Lycaonia, alone in the absolute blackness of her tomb. How long does it take? Hours? Days? Does the small lamp give her comfort, or does it only serve to illuminate the horrifying reality of her prison before it? 2. Sputters and dies. The physical suffering would be immense, but it is the psychological torment that haunts you. The utter solitude, the complete sensory deprivation, the slow, creeping realization that there is no hope, no escape, only the endless, waiting dark. The sound of the lost stone. It echoes in your mind. A sound that you know will never leave you. It is the sound of a door being closed forever. The sound of a life being walled off from the world. It is the sound of Rome's brutal, unforgiving piety. And it is a sound that now separates you, the survivors, from the naive young priestess you once were. You have seen the price of failure. And the knowledge is a cold stone in your own heart. In the days and weeks that follow, a new kind of quiet settles over the house of the Vestals. It's a colder, heavier silence than the one you knew before. The rhythmic peace of your former life has been replaced by a brittle stillness, fraught with unspoken anxieties. The ghost of Lycaonia haunts the atrium, not as a spectral presence, but as a void, a chilling reminder of the fragility of your existence. Her name is never spoken. Her belongings are being removed from her chamber, the room purified and sealed until a new novice is chosen to replace her. It is a systematic effort to erase her memory, to pretend she never existed. But the Arasua is imperfect. You see her everywhere, in the vacant spot at the dining table, in a particular rose bush she favored in the garden, in the way a shaft of afternoon light illuminates the space where she used to sit and weave. The sisterhood, once your greatest comfort, now feels like a collection of fellow survivors. There's a new distance between you. You look at each other, and you know that you all witnessed the same horror, that you are all complicit in your silence. You wonder what they truly thought. Did they believe she was guilty, or did they, like you, harbor a sickening doubt? The fear that an innocent was sacrificed to calm a volatile city. The uncertainty hangs between you, an impassable fog. Your duties feel different now. Tending the sacred flame, once a profound act of spiritual connection, is now tinged with a cold dread. As you sit your watch in the silent temple, the fire no longer seems like a warm, protective deity. It feels like a demanding, capricious tyrant. You watch its every flicker with a new, heightened paranoia. Every sputtering ember sends a jolt of fear through you. The flame has become a symbol not just of Rome's safety, a source of a new, personal terror. It is the instrument of your potential doom. This shift in the Vestals' morale after an execution is something ancient texts hint at but rarely detail. It's left to the imagination. Did the remaining Vestals become more pious, more diligent, terrified into perfect obedience? Or did a seed of cynicism take root? Did they continue to perform the rites with outward perfection, while inwardly questioning the very gods they served? This is a question historians can only speculate on, touching the limits of what we can know about inner lives from so long ago. You notice a peculiar change in the public's demeanor. When you now walk through the forum, the reverence in their eyes is mixed with something else. Fear. You are no longer just a beloved, holy figure. You are a reminder of the state's terrifying power. You are a woman who walks free while your sister lies buried in the earth. The awe you inspire is now laced with the chill of the grave. You have become a memento mori, a walking symbol of both divine favor and divine wrath. A strange, little known ritual that may have taken place after an execution was the purification of the house. The atrium Vestae itself, having harbored a polluted priestess, might have undergone a thorough spiritual cleansing. This could involve the burning of sacred herbs in every room, the sprinkling of consecrated water, and the recitation of specific prayers to banish any lingering negative influence. It would be an attempt to ritually reset the space, to wash away the stain of the fallen sister. You would have to participate in this, actively cleansing the home you shared with her. Another layer of psychological trauma. One evening, a younger priestess, one who was a close friend of Lic in years, drops a small clay pot while performing a minor ritual. It shatters on the marble floor. The sound is sharp, explosive in the silence. The girl freezes, her face ashen, her eyes wide with panic. A few months ago, this would have been a simple accident, met with quiet annoyance. Now, it feels like a terrible omen. For a heart-minded stopping moment, everyone looks at her as if she is the next to be condemned. The Vestals Maxima eventually speaks, her voice calm but strained, and the moment passes, but the incident reveals the truth. You are all living on a knife's edge. The fire in the Temple of Vesta now feels colder. It still gives off light. It still gives off heat. But the warmth it once represented, the warmth of hope, of security, of divine love, has been replaced by the cold, unforgiving glare of divine judgment. You and your sisters continue your duties with flawless precision. You are perfect priestesses, but you are no longer a true sisterhood. You are 5 scared women, bound together by a shared duty and a shared, unspeakable secret, each praying that the fire never demands another sacrifice. Time, as it always does, begins to smooth the jagged edges of the trauma. A new novice is chosen, a quiet, wide-minded girl of 7 who reminds you, with a painful lurch of the heart, of yourself all those years ago. The number is 6 again. The empty chairs fill. The rhythms of the atrium slowly, cautiously, return to a semblance of their former peace. The years continue to pass. You have now been in service for more than 2 decades. The dark hair of your youth is threaded with silver. The face that looks back at you from the polished bronze is no longer that of a student or a practitioner, but of a veteran. You have entered your 3rd and final decade of service. Your duty is no longer primarily to do, but to teach. You are now one of the senior Vestals. The Vestal is Maxima, the woman who taught you, has completed her 30 years and chosen to retire, a wealthy and respected matron living a quiet life in the city. A new leader has been chosen from among you, and you are part of the senior council that guides the sisterhood. Your primary role now is the education of the new generation. You look at the young novices, their faces full of awe and a little fear, and you see the immense responsibility you hold. You are the vessel of tradition, the living library of sacred lore. It is your job to pour all the knowledge you have accumulated over 20 years into these young, receptive minds. You teach them how to tend the flame, showing them how to read its moods, how to feed it without smothering it. But as you explain the dire consequences of failure, you find yourself softening the words, phrasing the warnings in a way that emphasizes diligence rather than terror. You have seen what pure fear can do to this community, and you are determined not to let it rule again. You teach them the endless litany of prayers, the complex gestures, the dizzying calendar of festivals. You guide their hands as they learn to bake the molus ulcer, ensuring the proportions of flour and salt are perfect. You watch them practice their weaving, their small, clumsy fingers slowly becoming more adept. But what do you teach them about Lycaonia? This is a question that weighs heavily on you. The official history, the one you are supposed to impart, is that a priestess strayed, was justly punished, and the divine order was restored. To speak of her is forbidden, and yet, to ignore it feels like a betrayal. How can you prepare these girls for the realities of this life without acknowledging its darkest possibilities? This is a subtle challenge that many long-standing, tradition-bound institutions face, and one that historians can only guess at. Was there an official sanitized version of history for the novices and then a more candid off-the record oral tradition shared among the senior members? You choose a middle path. You do not speak her name. You do not recount the specific horrors of her final days. But in your teachings about the vow of chastity, you embed a new kind of lesson. You speak not just of piety and divine favor, but of the world's envy and cruelty. You warn them about the danger of rumors, about the weight of public perception. You teach them that their symbolic purity makes them targets. You arm them not just with prayers, but with a cautious wisdom. Your greatest shield, you tell them, is not just your virtue but your discretion. You must be not only pure but above the very whisper of suspicion. It's a lesson born from tragedy, a piece of hard -1 knowledge that you hope will protect them in a way Lycaonia was not protected. One of the more obscure aspects of your teaching role was likely practical and administrative. You would be responsible for managing some of the atrium's properties, overseeing the servants, and handling the logistics for major festivals. You would teach the younger priestesses not just how to be holy, but how to run a large, complex, and wealthy household. You were not just a theologian. You were a CEO. Watching the novices grow, you feel a strained, maternal affection for them. They are not your children in blood, but they are your children in spirit. You are shaping them, guiding them, preparing them to take your place. You see their small triumphs, a perfectly recited prayer, a steady hand during a ritual, and you feel a quiet pride. You see their fears and their homesickness, and you offer a comforting word, a steadying presence. You are becoming the Vestals Maxima you once looked up to with such awe. In this final decade, you find a new kind of peace. The anxieties of your middle years, the raw fear that followed the execution, have mellowed into a deep, quiet wisdom. You have survived. You have endured. And now, Your purpose is to ensure that the sacred traditions, and the sisterhood itself, endure beyond you. You are the bridge between the past and the future, a living link in a chain that stretches back centuries, and in that role, you find a profound, if bittersweet, sense of fulfillment. The fire you tend now is not just the one in the temple. It is the flame of knowledge you are passing to the next generation. Your final decade of service unfolds against a backdrop of immense political turmoil. From the cloistered quiet of the atrium, you watch the sprawling, chaotic drama of the Roman Empire play out. An emperor is assassinated, his statues torn down in a frenzy of public outrage. A civil war erupts, and for a few terrifying months, different legions proclaim their own generals as rulers. You hear the distant sounds of street fighting, the panicked shouts of a city unsure of who is in command. Then, as quickly as it began, the conflict resolves. A new emperor emerges, a stern Midas-faced general from the provinces. He enters Rome in a grand triumph, his face painted red like the statue of Jupiter, and a new era of stability, or at least the illusion of it, begins. Through all this chaos, your life remains remarkably, so really, the same. The flame in the temple continues to burn. The prayers are recited at the correct hours. The molus also is baked for the state's sacrifices, offered up for the victory of whichever emperor happens to be in power at the moment. You and your sisters are the still point in a turning world. This continuity was, in fact, one of your most important functions. Emperors could be murdered, dynasties could fall, the very borders of the empire could shift, but the Vestals endured. You represented the eternal, unchanging heart of Rome. Your presence was a source of profound psychological stability for the Roman people, while the world of men was fickle and violent. The world of the gods, which you represented, was constant and reliable. You have now seen several emperors come and go. You remember the hope that greeted one's ascension, the quiet relief that accompanied another's peaceful death, the terror that defined a third's paranoid reign. You have seen their wives and children come to the temple to make offerings, their faces etched with the unique anxieties of those who live so close to the dizzying heights of power. Then look at you, the woman who has outlasted them all, with a kind of weary envy. Your power is not tied to a single man's fortune. It is tied to the city itself. This unique position gave the Vestals a subtle, but significant, political influence. While you did not engage in the day-to-day squabbles of the Senate, you were often called upon to sanctify major political transitions. When a new emperor was proclaimed, one of his first acts would be to visit the Temple of Vesta and affirm his piety, symbolically placing his rule under the protection of the goddess. Your acceptance of his offering was a powerful stamp of legitimacy. One of the more peculiar and debated historical instances of this was the role the Vestals played during times of conspiracy. Because your house was inviolable, it sometimes became a sanctuary. There are accounts of political figures, fearing for their lives, seeking refuge within the walls of the atrium. To send soldiers in to arrest someone there would be an act of profound sacrilege. This turned your quiet home into a potential political safe house. It was a dangerous game to play, requiring immense diplomatic skill from the Vestal Maxima to avoid angering a powerful ruler while still upholding the sanctity of your domain. You feel this sense of permanence most strongly when you walk through the forum. You see new arches and temples being built to commemorate the victories of the current emperor, while older monuments, dedicated to his disgraced predecessors, are being dismantled or repurposed. The very landscape of the city is a testament to the temporary nature of mortal power. But your small, round temple, and the grand house beside it, remain untouched. They are part of the city's ancient, sacred core, immune to the whims of politics. You spend an afternoon teaching a group of novices about the history of the sisterhood. You tell them of Vestals who served under the old republic, long before the first emperor was ever dreamed of. You speak of priestesses who tended the flame when Hannibal was at the gates of Rome, and others who kept their vigil while Julius Caesar was conquering Gaul. You are connecting these young girls to a lineage that predates the empire itself. You are showing them that they belong to something far older and more durable than any single ruler or dynasty. This long-term perspective gives you a unique wisdom. You have seen ambition rise and fall like the tide. You have seen immense wealth and power vanish in an instant. You have learned that the true strength of Rome lies not in its legions or its emperors, but in its traditions, its faith, and its institutions. And you are one of its most vital institutions. As you stand at a window in the atrium, looking out over the forum, you see the retinue of the new emperor sweeping by. He is young, confident, seemingly invincible. But you know better. You have seen men just like him before. He is a temporary custodian of a power that will eventually pass to another. But you, and the flame you protect, will remain. You are the memory of Rome, its conscience, its unchanging heart. And in a world of violent uncertainty, that is the most profound power of all. The day arrives, as you always knew it would, a quiet, unremarkable morning that marks the end of an era. 30 years. It feels both like an eternity and the blink of an eye. You have now served your full term as a priestess of Vesta. Your vow is complete. Your service is done. The ceremony is simple, almost anticlimactic after the high drama of your life. You stand before the new Pontifex Maximus, a man you have seen grow from an ambitious young priest into the leader of Rome's religious life. You and he are both survivors, old trees in a forest that has seen many storms. He recites a formal prayer of release, his voice filled with genuine respect. The words undo the legal and spiritual bond that was forged 3 decades ago in your father's courtyard. The phrase T. Capio is finally answered with its opposite, T. Libero. You are free. The word itself feels strange, foreign. For 30 years, your life has been defined by rules, by rituals, by the unyielding schedule of the sacred. Now, the cage door has been swung open. The choice of what to do next is entirely your own, and the sheer openness of it is both exhilarating and terrifying. You have 2 options. You can choose to remain within the walls of the atrium. Many former Vestals did. They could continue to live in their comfortable chambers, enjoying the respect and companionship of the sisterhood, acting as revered advisors without the burden of daily duties. They would be honored due wages, living out their days in the only home they had ever truly known. The atrium was safe, familiar, predictable. Or you can leave. You can enter the world you left behind as a child. This is the path you have chosen. It's a decision fraught with complexity. You are now a woman in your late 30s, approaching 40, in a world where most women your age are grandmothers. You are, in a sense, just beginning your life. You are also an incredibly wealthy woman. The generous stipend you received from the state, combined with any family inheritance and shrewd investments you may have made, means you are independently rich, one of the most eligible women in Rome. You are free to marry, and for many former Vestals, this was the primary motivation for leaving. After a lifetime of enforced chastity, the prospect of having a husband, a family, children of your own, was a powerful lure. The social prestige of marrying a former Vestal was immense. It was considered a great honor, and a sign of tremendous piety, to take a woman who had been so close to the divine as your wife. Suitors, are already lining up, sending discreet inquiries through intermediaries. And yet, the transition is not a simple one. You have spent 30 years in a community of women. You have been trained to be autonomous, authoritative, and intellectually rigorous. How do you adapt to the role of a Roman matron, a role that, while respected, is still subordinate to that of your husband? How do you learn the subtle arts of managing a household, of navigating the complex social world of Roman high society after a lifetime of sacred seclusion? There is also a strange, lingering superstition that clung to former Vestals, a detail that ancient writers noted with some fascination. While it was a great honor to marry one, it was also considered slightly unlucky. The belief was that a woman who had spent so long in the service of a virgin goddess was not always destined for a happy or fruitful marriage. It's a classic Roman paradox. You are both a sacred prize and a potentially cursed bride. Historians debate whether this was a genuine folk belief or just a misogynistic trope, a way of expressing societal unease with such powerful, unconventional women. As you pack your few personal belongings, you feel a profound sense of dislocation. You are saying goodbye to your sisters, the only family you have truly known for 3 decades. You share quiet, tearful farewells, promising to visit, but you all know it will never be the same. You are crossing a threshold they cannot follow. You walk through the courtyard one last time, past the statues of the great priestesses who came before you. Soon, your own statue might stand among them, a tribute to your long and faithful service. You touch the cool marble of a column, feeling the deep, ancient stillness of the atrium. You have been a part of this, and now you are leaving. As you step out of the gates of the atrium and into the noisy, sunlight-drenched forum, the city feels overwhelming. The sheer number of people, the cacophony of sounds, the riot of colors, it's a century as old after the muted peace of your former life. You are a stranger in your own hometown. You have a new life to build, a new identity to forge. You are no longer Sock Edo's Vestals. You are simply a woman. A very rich, very respected, very intimidating woman, with a past that sets you apart from everyone you will ever meet. The 30 years of service are over, but you know they will mark you forever. You can leave the atrium, but, in a way, the atrium will never leave you. The fire is extinguished, but its embers still glow within you. You purchase a house on McKellian Hill, a fashionable and wealthy neighborhood with sweeping views of the city. The house is grand, with airy rooms, a lush garden, and intricate mosaics depicting scenes from mythology, a world you once inhabited in a very different way, after decades in a luxurious but communal space. The sheer privacy of it is a novelty. You can wake when you want, eat what you want, and speak to whomever you please. The freedom is intoxicating, but also deeply unsettling. Your days are now your own to structure. At first, you find yourself instinctively listening for the sound of the ritual bell, your body tensing at the hours you once had specific duties. You wake before dawn out of pure habit, and the silent, empty house feels wrong. You have to consciously unlearn the rhythms that have been ingrained in you for 30 years. You decide to marry. Your choice is a senator, a widower a few years older than you. He is a kind, steady man, more impressed by your intellect and quiet authority than by the novelty of your past. He treats you not as a holy relic, but as an equal partner, a gesture of respect you find both surprising and deeply comforting. The wedding is a grand affair, the talk of Rome, but even here, your past sets you apart. While a typical bride would be accompanied by her mother and female relatives, you are attended by the Vestals Maxima and your former sisters. They stand by your side, a silent, white minus-robed testament to the life you have left behind. It's a strange and beautiful fusion of your two worlds. Life as a Roman matron is a new kind of education. You learn to manage a large, complex household, a skill for which your administrative duties in the atrium have surprisingly prepared you. But you also have to learn the subtle, unwritten rules of social life. You host dinner parties, attending to the delicate dance of seating arrangements and conversation, ensuring your powerful guests are flattered and entertained. It feels like a performance, not unlike the rituals you once led, but the stakes are social rather than divine. Sometimes, your two lives collide in unexpected ways. At a banquet, a young, arrogant politician, flushed with wine, makes a crude joke about the Vestals before your husband can even react. You fix the man with a look of such cold, quiet fury, the same look you once gave a novice who had been careless with the sacred fire, that he turns pale and stammers an apology. The table falls silent. In that moment, everyone is reminded that you are not just a senator's wife. You are a woman who has communed with the divine, and you carry that authority with you. One of the most poignant challenges you face is the question of children. You long for a child, for the experience of motherhood you were denied for so long. But the years pass, and it doesn't happen. You remember the old superstition, the whispers that former Vestals were often barren, and you wonder, with a bitter ache, if the goddess Vesta is a jealous mistress who does not easily release her servants. Historians can't know for sure how often former Vestals had children, as the records are sparse. But the cultural anxiety around it was real. It was as if society couldn't quite accept that a body dedicated to sacred purity for so long could easily transition to the earthy reality of childbirth. Your relationship with your husband is a source of deep comfort. He is fascinated by your past and listens for hours as you speak of the rituals, the traditions, the quiet life of the atrium. You tell him things you never spoke of to anyone outside the sisterhood, but there are things you can never fully share. You can never make him understand the bone-minus deep terror of seeing the flame gutter, or the chilling silence of the evil field. There is a part of you, the core of your 30-year experience, that will always be a sacred, inviolable space, a penus vesta in your own soul. You maintain your friendships with your sisters. You visit the atrium, and they visit your home. When you are with them, you slip back into the easy camaraderie of your old life. But there is always a gentle barrier now. You speak of your husband, your social duties. They speak of the new novices, the upcoming festivals. You live in different worlds. You are cherished, but foreign, relative. You live a good life, a respected life, but you are forever marked. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, you wake up with a start, your heart pounding, convinced you've heard the sound of the last stone being set in place. You are free. You are wealthy. You are loved. But you are a stranger in your own life. A woman caught between the memory of a sacred past and the reality of a profane present. You are a living testament to the fact that some vows, even when formally released, can never truly be left behind. The years mellow into decades. Your husband passes away peacefully, and you live on as a respected widow, the grand dame of Roman society. Your hair is now entirely white, your face a fine parchment of wrinkles. You have outlived your generation. You have seen the city of Rome itself change in ways you could never have imagined as a girl. The world you were born into, the world of Caesar Augustus and the old gods, is fading like a dream upon waking. A new faith has been growing within the empire. It began as a strange, stubborn cult from the east, centered on a crucified carpenter. For centuries, it was a religion of the pure and the marginalized, its followers meeting in secret, sometimes facing brutal persecution. You remember hearing whispers of them when you were still in the atrium, another strange superstition in a city full of them. But now, everything has changed. An emperor, in a move that shook the foundations of the world, has converted. He claims to have seen a vision of a cross in the sky before a great battle. Now, this new faith, Christianity, is not just tolerated, it is favored. The state, which once persecuted its followers, now pours money into building its churches. The old gods, the ones you dedicated your entire life to, are being slowly, methodically pushed aside. They are being called demons, false idols. You watch this transformation with a profound, detached sadness from your villa on the Kelly and Hill. You see great basilicas rising, their soaring arches and high windows dwarfing the old, familiar temples of the Forum. The priests you see in the streets are no longer the pontiffs in their formal togas, but men in simple, dark robes, their faces filled with different kind of zeal. The atrium Vesta, your old home, still stands, a handful of priestesses, drawn from the few remaining pagan aristocratic families, still tend the sacred flame. But their role is diminished. They are no longer the spiritual heart of a thriving empire, but the curators of a dying tradition. The public reverence they once commanded has curdled into a mixture of pity and contempt. They are seen as relics of a superstitious past. Stubborn old women clinging to a faith that the world has left behind. Then comes the decree. The Christian Emperor Theodosius, in the late 4th century, issues a series of edicts. All pagan cults are to be officially proscribed. The state subsidies that have supported the ancient temples and priestesses for over 1,000 years are to be cut off. It is the final, killing blow. You hear the news and feel a coldness that has nothing to do with your age. The Vestals, your successors, have been evicted from the atrium. Their home of centuries is being repurposed. The sacred flame, which has burned continuously for over 1,000 years, a symbol of Rome's entrance through kings, republics, and empires, has been extinguished. The person credited or blamed for this final act is a woman, Serene, the fiercely Christian niece of the emperor. The historical accounts, written by angry pagans, tell a story that might be embellished but captures the emotional truth of the moment. It is said that Serene entered the now empty Temple of Vesta and, in an act of supreme sacrilege, took a sacred necklace from the long cold statue of the goddess Rhea and placed it around her own neck. It was a gesture of ultimate triumph, the new faith plundering the symbols of the old. The story goes that one of the last surviving Vestals, an old woman, appeared and cursed Serene for her blasphemy, predicting a terrible end for her and her family. Whether this dramatic confrontation actually happened is, of course, a source of endless scholarly debate. You imagine that final, guttering ember in the temple, the lost priestess turning her back, the room growing dark and cold for the first time in memory, an entire worldview, an entire cosmology, snuffed out. It is more than the end of a ritual. It is the end of a world. The Pax Deorum, the peace with the gods that you dedicated your life to maintaining, is officially, irrevocably broken. From your window, you look down towards the forum. It all looks the same in the evening light, but you know it is not. A spirit has departed from the city. The heart has stopped beating. You are now really a relic, a living fossil from an age that is no more. You are perhaps one of the last people alive who remembers what it felt like to stand before the living fire, to feel the presence of the goddess, to believe, with every fiber of your being, in the old ways. The world has moved on, and you have been left behind, a silent witness to the death of your gods. Your physical form has long since returned to the earth, your name forgotten by the living, but your spirit, your memory, lingers. You are a whisper of smoke in the air, a shadow that flits between the broken columns. You drift through the ruins of the Roman Forum, a place that is now a ghost of a ghost. The grand buildings have been picked apart, their marble facades stripped away to build the palaces and churches of a new era. The temples have crumbled, their roofs caved in, allowing the open sky to look down on floors where only gods and priests once trod. Goats now graze where senators once debated the fate of the world. The sacred way is a muddy track, rotted by the carts of scavengers. You float towards the place that was once your home, the heart of your world. The atrium Vesta is a ruin. The walls of the great house are collapsed, its luxurious rooms filled with rubble and overgrown with weeds, but the basic shape is still there. You can still trace the outline of the central courtyard, the place where you walked and talked with your sisters. The pools where you watched the clouds drift by are now just stagnant puddles. And the statues, some are still here. The portraits of the Vestals Maximi, your predecessors. They lie toppled from their pedestals, half mindless buried in the dirt. Some are headless, some scarred by the tools of medieval lime-minus burners who tried to cook the marble down into mortar. You see the statue of the woman who taught you, her serene marble face staring blankly at the sky. You see the empty niche where the statue of a disgraced sister might have been removed. These are the last, silent witnesses of your forgotten sisterhood. You drift into the remains of the small, round temple next door. The roof is gone. The altar where the sacred flame burned for 1,000 years is just a jumble of broken stones, exposed to the rain and the wind. There is a coldness here that feels deeper than the mere absence of fire. It is the coldness of a place that has lost its soul. You remember the intense, living warmth that once filled this space, and the contrast is a silent scream. As you linger here, you are not entirely alone. Over the centuries, others come. In what they call the Renaissance, artists and architects come to sketch the ruins, marveling at the scale and proportion of the ancient world, trying to recapture its lost glory. They see beauty in the decay, but they do not understand the life that once filled these stones. They see a classical ideal. You see your home. Later, in what will be known as the 18th and 19th centuries, a new kind of visitor arrives, archaeologists, men with shovels and notebooks, obsessed with the past. They begin to clear away the centuries of dirt and debris. It is a slow, painstaking process. They uncover the floors of the atrium, revealing the faint traces of mosaic. They find the pedestals of the statues and, reading the inscriptions, begin to piece together the names and histories of the women who lived here. You watch them, a silent, unseen observer. You feel a strange sense of vindication as they unearth a fragment of a pot you might have used, or a bronze pin that might have fallen from your robes. They are rediscovering you. They are no longer a living priestess, but a historical puzzle, a subject of academic inquiry. They debate the meaning of the molar salsa, the exact location of the campuses celerity US, the guilt or innocence of women like Lic and Ea. They are asking the same questions you once asked yourself. A young woman, a tourist in a time you cannot comprehend, stands in the ruins of the atrium. She holds a small, black rectangle in her hand, a guidebook you surmise, and reads about the Vestal virgins. She reads about the 30-year vow, the eternal flame, and the terrifying punishment of being buried alive. She shivers, despite the warm Italian sun. She looks around at the broken stones and tries to imagine it. She tries to imagine you. And in that moment, you are not entirely gone. A flicker of your story, a fragment of your life, has crossed the vast gulf of time and found a home in her mind. The flame is out. The temple is a ruin, and your gods are long dead. But the story survives. It lingers in the stones, in the pages of books, in the minds of those who come here and try to listen to the whispers of the past. You are one of those whispers, I think, ghostly echo of a life of incredible honor and unbearable sacrifice, a life spent in service to a flame that was meant to be eternal, and very nearly was. And so, our story finds its end, not in a grand temple, but here, among the quiet ruins in the heart of a sleeping city. The echoes of the past grow soft, fading into the gentle hum of the present moment. The stones of the forum hold their peace, and the weight of history becomes as light as a feather, drifting slowly down into the deep well of slumber. You can feel that comfortable heaviness in your limbs now, a pleasant, warm gravity pulling you down into the soft mattress beneath you. The journey is over. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to see. There is only this stillness, this quiet, this gentle space between the story and your own unfolding dreams. You can let go of my voice now. Let it dissolve into the silence of your room, becoming just another part of the peaceful night. The final word has been whispered. If your mind is still gently stirring, you're welcome to drift into another of my stories. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.